They had their pens, poised and precise, writing a story they were so sure you'd follow to the letter. Every plot point, every twist, every tragic turn, they drafted it all, convinced you'd play the docile character they needed you to be. But they miscalculated. Scripts are fragile things. They crack under the weight of unpredictability. And you didn't just read their script. You ripped it apart and wrote something entirely your own. They wanted a tragedy. You gave them a storm. A tempest they couldn't control, couldn't predict. You took their ink-stained plans and turned them into ashes, laughing as the pages burned. Every word they penned, every line meant to box you in, only fueled the chaos you unleashed. And in that chaos, you found freedom. You didn't just rewrite the story. You shattered the whole damn genre. You turned their careful narrative into a mockery of itself. You see, the thing about scripts is they assume compliance. They hinge on the belief that you'll stick to the roles assigned, follow the cues given. But life doesn't care for roles, and neither do you. You became the director, the editor, the villain, and the hero all at once. While they clung to their expectations, you shattered the mold, proving that the most compelling stories aren't written. They're lived, fiercely and unapologetically. And isn't it funny? They thought they were in control, thought their pen was mightier than your will. But the ending? The ending was always yours. They laid the foundation, but you built the fortress. They planted seeds of doubt, and you grew forests of resilience. What they intended as limitations, you transformed into stepping stones, rising higher with every twist of fate. Every page they wrote reeked of their arrogance, their assumption that they understood you, that they could predict your every move. But unpredictability is your weapon, your gift. While they scribbled their illusions of power, you played the long game, watching, waiting. You let them think they were winning, only to reveal that you'd been pulling the strings all along. Their story, it was never about them. It was always yours. And here's the cruel beauty of it all. They'll never understand how you did it. They'll sit in the rubble of their shattered expectations, bewildered, angry, powerless. They'll call you reckless, chaotic, maybe even mad. But the truth is, you simply refused to play their game. You made your own rules, and in doing so, you stripped them of their power. They'll hate you for it, admire you for it, and most painfully of all, remember you for it. What they failed to grasp is that the best directors don't follow scripts. They rewrite them. They see the flaws in the narrative, the cracks in the facade, and they exploit them mercilessly. You took their carefully crafted illusion and turned it into your masterpiece. A story so raw, so brutally honest, that it left them reeling. And that's the thing about real stories. They're not neat or predictable. They're messy, and they're magnificent. You weren't afraid to break the fourth wall, to tear down the set and expose the wires holding up their illusions. While they were busy trying to control the narrative, you embraced the chaos, proving that the most compelling tales are born from defiance. You turned their attempts at manipulation into a stage for your triumph, standing tall amidst the wreckage of their plans. And so, when the final curtain falls, when the lights dim and the applause, or the silence, fades, you remain. Not as the character they wrote, but as the director of your destiny. Circumstances are the stage, nothing more. They are the backdrop, the fixed scenery upon which your life unfolds. But the world wants you to believe the stage defines the actor. That the lighting, the music, the props, all these external factors dictate the story. It's a convenient lie for those who refuse to act. The real story lies not in the scenery, but in the choices you make as you stand in its shadow. You're not the product of the stage. You're the one holding the pen, writing the lines, choosing how the plot unfolds. The stage can only mock you if you hand it your script. There's a moment before every decision, a breathless pause where everything is possible, yet nothing has begun. This is where your power lies, in the space between what happens to you and what you do about it. Most squander this space, reacting blindly, living like marionettes, pulled by the strings of impulse and habit. But the wise? They use this space like a blade, cutting through the noise. Nawakas, choosing their response with precision. It's not circumstances that define us. It's what we do in this silent, invisible interval that builds or destroys everything. Pain and joy, failure and success. They are merely stimuli. Life throws its stones. It casts its fleeting light. What follows depends on the response. A sharp mind sees that the same storm can erode or refine. It isn't the storm that decides your fate. It's how you meet it. Do you rage against the rain, cursing the heavens? Or do you learn to build a fortress that stands unyielding? The storm doesn't care. It never does. But your response shapes the aftermath, whether it's ruin or resilience. Victimhood is the sweet poison the world offers when things go wrong. It's not your fault, they whisper. Your circumstances are to blame. And so, many drink deeply, drowning in self-pity and surrendering their power. But the brave understand that accepting responsibility, even for things beyond your control, is the ultimate rebellion. It takes strength to look at your life, no matter how broken, and say, "This is mine, and I will rebuild it on my terms." Every decision is a brushstroke on the canvas of your life. Some strokes are bold, some tentative, and some marred by missteps. But the masterpiece emerges only when you take control of the brush. No one else can paint for you. Not your parents, not your enemies, not the society that wants you to fit into its prefabricated frame. The canvas will mock you if you leave it blank, waiting for someone else to fill it. Your decisions, not your circumstances, determine whether the final painting is a tragedy or a triumph. The world delights in its scripts, handing them to you neatly folded, with roles assigned and endings pre-written. But those who rise refuse to follow. They rip the script to shreds and write their own lines, sometimes in chaos, sometimes in blood, but always on their terms. Circumstances are merely the ink smudges on the pages, not the story itself. And when you've rewritten enough, the world begins to take notice. You become the anomaly, the director who defied the system and created something entirely new. Between stimulus and response lies the only freedom you will ever truly own. It's not granted by governments or earned through wealth. It's the raw, primal ability to choose how you act, to remain unshaken when the world quakes, to refuse despair when all seems lost, to rise when every force conspires to drag you down. This is the space where greatness is forged, not in comfort, but in the crucible of decision. There's a twisted beauty in understanding that no one is coming to save you. No hero, no divine intervention will rewrite the story for you. It's a cold truth, but it's also the most liberating one, because once you accept it, the power is yours entirely. You hold the keys to every door, the fire to burn through every obstacle. The chains you feel are not external. They are the choices you refuse to make. An external locus of control is the easiest escape. It whispers sweet lies into the ears of the weak, convincing them that their suffering is authored by others, their failures sculpted by an uncaring universe. They drift like leaves on a river, blaming the current for their lack of direction. But the internal locus of control, oh, that is a double-edged sword. It demands accountability, forces you to look in the mirror and recognize the architect of your misery. It requires a brutal honesty that cuts deeper than any external wound. Taking ownership is not for the faint-hearted. It means admitting that the missed opportunities, the shattered relationships, the failures, they are yours. No scapegoats, no excuses. And yet, in that dark realization lies liberation. For if your failures are yours, then so too are your victories. The external locus gives you nothing but shackles, while the internal hands you the keys to the kingdom. It's a gamble where the stakes are high, but the rewards, boundless. Society thrives on the masses embracing an external locus. The more you believe in forces beyond your control, the easier you are to manipulate. You become predictable, malleable, a cog in a machine whose mechanics you'll never understand. But those who operate from an internal locus are dangerous, unpredictable, untamed. They rewrite the rules, shift the balance, upset the carefully constructed illusions. And those who wield power fear such individuals because their power lies within, not in the hands of others. Control is not the absence of chaos. It's the ability to navigate through it without losing yourself. Life will throw its daggers, its storms, its shadows, but your locus of control determines whether you're the hunted or the hunter. Do you cower in the dark, blaming the unseen forces that torment you? Or do you rise, bloodied but unbowed, taking each challenge as a test of your resilience? The choice is always yours, whether you admit it or not. The narrative of your life is being written every day, every hour, every moment. You can let others dictate its chapters, or you can take the pen and craft your story with purpose. Ownership means freedom, but it also means responsibility. It's a weight that will either crush you or forge you into something unbreakable. The world is waiting to see which you'll choose, but the world's opinion is irrelevant.